Hi, welcome to the Cell Block. I'm Iron Mike. Today we're going to talk about the good, the bads, and the uglies of use of force. First, let me explain I've been on hundreds of use of force cell extractions as an officer, as a supervisor, and as an after action team member. I have taught thousands of hours of use of force training to officers and institutions. I have been a subject matter expert and have testified in federal court on behalf of the federal government on use of force. I've been in 5 riots, 2 as an operator on a special operations response team, 2 as a team leader on a special operations response team, and 1 as a team commander of a special operations response team. So, what I'm telling you is coming from my 33 years of experience in the federal prison system. I'm not just reading this stuff from a book and passing it off like I know what I'm talking about. This is experience, real life situations. I've been there, done it, and gone through it. Now I'm passing this off on to you, those of you that are watching this video, to ensure that you think about use of force because it's a serious situation. Now, use of force is definitely needed in a prison setting. Inmates don't do what they are supposed to do. We can't gain their cooperation by any other means than to use of force. Inmate may be barricaded in his cell. We have to use an extraction team. Maybe a riot. Maybe a hostage situation. Use of force is definitely needed. Reason I'm making this video is talk about the good, the bads, and the very uglies of use of force so you understand when these things happen what you can expect. Now, anything you do, whether it's an action, a reaction to an incident, a memorandum, a report, whatever you do inside that prison is subject to go to court. It's subject to be subpoenaed. So it's a very serious situation if it does go to court. If you're found outside your policies of your agency does not have to represent you in court. And what that means is that you have to go out and find your own legal representation, and anything that's awarded through that trial comes out of your pocket. If you're if you're found to be outside the agency's policy and you're found to have used excessive force, that can become a civil rights violation and you could be looking at a criminal trial. So, what I'm covering in this video is very important as a correctional officer, as a supervisor, as a member of management, that you understand the ramifications of use of force. Now let's talk about the officer's point of view. If you're an officer and you're on an extraction team and you're using any kind of equipment or you're using munitions, whether it's less than lethal munitions or lethal munitions, you have to be certified currently on that equipment, on the gas, on the munitions. And it's not the agency's responsibility to keep track of your certification, it falls on you. So if you fire a weapon and you didn't pass the yearly qualification or whatever your agency's qualifications are, don't think you're going to point the finger at the agency and they're going to be held liable for it. It's going to fall on you. You know whether or not you're current on your certifications, or you should know. One of the other things that's very important is know your agency's use of force policy, whether it's a less than lethal munitions or lethal munitions or lethal force policy. Make sure you know them, because if something goes bad and you go into court, that's the first thing that you're going to be asked is to explain your agency's use of force policy. If you can't do that, how does that look as a witness testimony for yourself or your agency? Doesn't look good at all. So make sure you know your policies, you maintain your certifications. If as an agency you can gain the inmate's cooperation through confrontation avoidance, which means you're talking to the inmate to gain their cooperations, that's a big plus. It doesn't mean your agency's weak. It means they're smart, because when you have to send in a team or people for an incident to use force, you're always subjecting them to injury. So if we can simply talk to an inmate and gain their cooperation, that's a big plus. As a team member, when you go into that cell, everything that you do from the very point of the beginning of the move to the very end needs to be in your memorandum, what you did. You're going to have old timers tell you, oh no, don't put the least amount in your report, and that way they can't hold it against you. It's not going to look good if that report's subpoenaed to court. Make sure it's specific, because these things don't go to court right away. It's years down the road, and you want to be able to refer back to that report and see and remember what you've done on that day of that incident. Very helpful. Don't listen to the old guy that says, "Oh, no, you don't have to do that." Do it. I'm telling you from experience. Also, if you are using force, don't involve your emotions. If you're so angry at that inmate that you have to strike them when the restraints are on, that's not going to be good for you. Like I said, it could go to a civil rights violation, which is handled by the FBI, and you could be looking at criminal time. So don't let your emotions get involved. Inmates do that stuff. They don't cooperate. That's what they do. That's what an inmate does. Don't take it personal. What we do is we react to that with use of force. So make sure you're doing it properly and you become the winner. As a supervisor, you're the director of that incident. So everybody on that team, everybody you're sending into that incident should be trained, should know what they're doing. It should have been communicated to them what their job responsibilities are, where you want the inmates taken, etc., after they're restrained. Everybody should be on the same sheet of music. If you are a supervisor, it's not your job to participate in the use of force. It's your job to observe. You're observing for policies and procedures to make sure that the staff are doing them correctly. If not, you're to intervene, stop the move, and make the corrective action. If you don't take corrective action and something happens, it's going to come back on you, the supervisor. You're going to be held at a higher standard than that officer who did the thing wrong. You're going to be asked, why didn't you stop the move? Why didn't you go in there? It's your responsibility. No ifs, ands, or buts. You have to do it. Now, if something really goes bad, such as a death, you can guarantee it's going to go to court. You can guarantee that. The inmate's family is going to want paid. They're going to blame you. They're going to blame the agency. And that's where you have to be prepared. You have to make sure that you're following your agency's policy. You have to make sure you know what your agency's policy is, because these are all going to be questions you're going to be asked in court. You need to have a detailed memorandum, detailed report. As a supervisor, we record these things. At least a lot of agencies are going to videotaping, and we do that with the camera. Make sure the camera's functional. Make sure that there's a power source, and if there's any interruption during that move or that incident you're taping, make sure you cover it in your memorandum and say why. That tape becomes evidence. If you destroy that tape because of something that happened in that move, you're destroying evidence, and that could come back and haunt you criminally later on in an investigation. Don't do that. Okay? Follow your policies and procedures. As management, you have to do an after action of all use of force incidents. You need to make sure that you see what the officers did right and commend them. You have to see what they did wrong and train them. If you're seeing the same things that pop up incident after incident, you need to do more training. And I'm all about hands-on training. That means you're going to have to do practice cell extractions, practice riots, do emergency mock exercises so that staff understand. Use the equipment you have on the shelf. Nothing irritates me more than walking into an institution and seeing shiny new equipment on the shelf. That means you're not using it and you're expecting it to run and be used during an incident, which is totally stupid. Staff don't know how to use that equipment. If you're leaving it up on that shelf and it's shiny as the day you bought it, your staff don't know how to use it. So make sure that they're trained properly. Okay? Now the purpose of this video is not to say I'm not for use of force. I'm totally for use of force. I spent years and years on a special operations response team doing use of force. So I'm all for it. It's for the safety of staff in the institution and for the agency and the institution to run smoothly. What I'm telling you is the results that could happen from a simple cell extraction, and be prepared. So if you have not taken anything from this video, take these things. Know your agency's use of force policy, whether it's less than lethal force or lethal force. Make sure you have your certifications up to date. Your gas certifications, your firearm certifications. Keep track of those and make sure they're updated, and take corrective action when they aren't. Get a hold of your training department and get recertified so you can use that equipment. Make sure you write detailed memorandums. Okay? Make sure that you understand anything that you do or anything that you write down or anything you say is admissible to court through a subpoena, through your agency. Be aware of that. Take corrective action when you see something that's not right. If you're present when an officer is using excessive force and you do not stop that officer, you're going to be held just as accountable as that officer. So make sure that you take corrective action. As a supervisor, you can't explain away standing there and allowing something to happen on tape in a use of force situation. If you didn't step in on tape and take corrective action, you have to do it, or you'll be held accountable. I hope this taught you something on use of force and the good, the bads, and the very uglies. I would appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button and subscribe to my channel, because I'll be doing more videos in the future. With that, I'd like to say stay safe.